Radio Blues PR had asked in the comments on one of the other videos for an explanation of snippets and how they work, how to program them. So I'm going to do that real quick for you. You'll notice that I'm not in front of a Behringer 32X board. I'm actually in the edit software. So everything's in the same location. It's all labeled the same. All the menus do the same thing. So it shouldn't give you any trouble. It should all be just about the same. But if you have any confusion, let me know in the comments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain what snippets are and what they do, show you how to set them up, and then give you an example of how we use them and maybe some other examples for how you might use them. Basically what a snippet is it's like a slice of a scene. And a scene, you save and load scenes over here in the scene section. You click the view button. It's the only way I know how to get to this menu. I think it's the only way there is. And the scenes save and load settings globally across the entire board. So when you save a scene, it's going to save all the fader positions, it's going to save the mute settings, it's going to save the scribble strips, the EQs, the compressors, the effects, all your routing, everything. And when you recall one, it's going to recall all of that stuff across the board unless you tell it not to recall certain things over here. What a snippet does, which is on this menu right here, is it just saves and recalls specific information, which is shown in this section of this window over here. So you're just saving the parameters that you select only on the channels or returns or buses or groups or whatever that you choose. So for example, if I only wanted to save and recall the effects 1 and 2 settings on channels 1 and 2, I can do that with a snippet. And when I reload it, it's not going to mess with the fader settings, it's not going to mess with anything that I don't tell it to. But if I wanted it to mess with the fader settings, there's an option for that over here. But it's only going to reload what you tell it to reload, and it's not going to touch anything else. So there's lots of applications for this. The one that we use it most for is for setting up and switching back and forth between routing settings for virtual sound checks and live settings. So there's another video on virtual sound checks and how we use those if you want to understand what they are. But basically, when you're switching back and forth, what we want to do is change the routing settings from the local inputs. So this is set up to run live, right? These are all the XLR inputs coming in from the back of the board. So all these channels are dictated by the XLR inputs on the back. But when we run a virtual sound check, we want the audio to be coming from a computer, which is coming through the card on the USB card on the back of the board. So to set that up, normally you click over here at routing, you come down, you click card 1 through 8 for the inputs you want, and then card 9 through 16. And we only use the first 16 for the recording and for virtual sound checks, but if you wanted, you could go all the way down and do all 32. We just use the first 16, so I'll just keep those the same. So you could, every time you want to switch back and forth, come into the routing menu and do it like that. I just want a quicker, easier way to do it, and so Snippets works for that. So to show you how to do that, let's set it up back like we were running live. Now I want to save a snippet with these settings so that whenever I reload that snippet, it's going to reload these settings and set me up so I can be live, at least from a routing perspective. So the way I do that is I set the board up like I want it, which is like this. I'm going to go back to the Snippets menu, so View, Snippets. I'm going to select the place that I want to save that snippet. I think there's 100 spots. And then because I just want the routing settings to change, I don't want any of the EQs, I don't want any of that stuff to change, I'm going to pick this routing, click this box here, routing, and I only want it on channels 1 through 16. So I'm going to individually click all of those boxes. You could set it up for more channels, or for all 32, or for just 8, whatever your needs are. But for us, it's just these 16. That's all we use for that. So I'm going to set that up, and then I'm going to save the snippet over here. So you'll click the encoder. When you highlight this snippet spot you want to save it in, I'm going to call this live. I'm going to save it. Okay, so that's live. So now when I load this snippet, it's going to reload these specific routing settings that I've designated here. The next thing I want to do is set up my virtual soundcheck settings. So I will go to the routing section, scroll down and switch this over to card 1 through 8 and 9 through 16. Go back to the scenes, snippets, and then I want to save this exact thing on a separate snippet setting. So I want it to reload the routing and 1 through 16. You could also set it to do mutes if you wanted to, like we have crowd mics, and maybe I wouldn't want those reloaded. I would want those reloaded muted. I could do that if I wanted to, but right now I just want the routing. So I'm going to save the routing for 1 through 16 again, because now again we've changed it. Now it's at the card, and I'm going to save that right here in slot number 1. So I'll click save. I'll call this the sound check. Save it, and now I've got 2 snippets that can be reloaded. So right now, again, it's set up like I'm running a virtual sound check. If I want to switch back, go to the snippets menu and reload the live one. It's going to ask me if I want to. I say yes, and there it is. Now it's reloaded. Now that's still kind of cumbersome to go here, click through, and find it. So there's 2 ways to make that even quicker. One is you can actually set these buttons, this section of the board, these physical buttons on the board, to control snippets instead of scenes. Default, they're set up to scroll back and forth through scenes, but you can set it up to do snippets. The way you do that is you go to the setup menu, go to config, and then right here under show control, you just click snippets. And now this changes up here, and you can see I can switch back and forth, so I can go to vSound check. Let me show you as it's actually doing. So right now I'm set up and live, but I can highlight my virtual sound check settings, click go, and then it loads it just like that. It just switches. So you don't have to be in the routing menu to do that. You can do that just right here. It's going to show you what setting you're in and what setting you're about to load. You click go, and it switches. That's one way to do it. The way that we use it is actually with this assign section, which is a little bit easier, even quicker, I think, than this. This is really useful if you had maybe a bunch of snippets and you were going to scroll through them over the course of a performance or something like that. But for our purposes, we use the assign section. And so to do that, we go to view on the assign section, and then you're just going to pick where you want the buttons to be that are going to load those snippets. We put them on C, and then you pick the button. Ours are 5, so that's this. Let's see, go to C here. That's this button, and 6, which is this button. So you have 5. Console snippet, and then you pick the one you want. Right here it's not labeled on the board, it'll actually say which one it is. So I pick that one, and then button 6, I would pick this one. Now when I push these buttons on the assign section, it's going to reload those snippets. It'll ask you, are you sure you want to load the snippet? You click yes, and it just loads it immediately. So you can switch back and forth really, really quickly. So that's the way that we use them. There's lots of other ways that you can. I mean, you can and it's just a matter of messing around and figuring out what you want to do. It's a quick way to maybe just switch fader positions. If you've got, you want to keep all the guitar EQ settings the same. Maybe somebody's coming in and different people are going to be playing the same guitar, and you want to keep that guitar EQ the same, but one person plays it harder, and you want to switch the fader setting, and then maybe, when that person picks up a guitar, someone else is moving to a different microphone, and you want to just reload those settings really quickly and easily. You can do that all through snippets. One of the other things we used it for is we had one microphone that was kind of being passed around between a bunch of different people. And one guy, kind of the main guy that it kept getting passed around to, he would hold the microphone really close to his mouth. And so it sounded best if we had a certain set of EQ settings on it and a certain fader position. And so what we did was we just made, but everybody else held the microphone farther away, and those same EQ settings didn't sound the best. So for him, we made a snippet that had EQ. Let's see. So let's say it was, we'll say it was channel 1. So I would just select channel 1. That's the microphone that's being passed around. And I want to reload those EQ settings and maybe the fader position. And that was really it. Was just those 2 things. You could do the gain if you wanted to, or if you had different compression or whatever. But we just had the EQ and the faders that we kind of tuned to him and then everybody else. Then I saved the snippet where I liked it. His EQ, saved it and called it one guy. That's not what we called it, but we'll put it there for now. And then went in, changed the EQ settings, however we decided to do it. Changed the fader, pulled it down, did all that, and then saved it again as everybody else. Then when you reload them, you can see the fader jump here. That's the only thing I changed for it this time. But when I go to this snippet, it goes back up to wherever it was. It also would change the EQ settings if I made any tweaks. And that was just a quick way to jump back and forth. So when he handed the microphone away, we reload the other one, and back and forth that way. You can set it up for DCA groups, matrix sends, all this stuff. So really the possibilities are, there's a ton of them. There's a ton of ways you can use this. But I hope that at least helps you understand how to set them up and get going and how to switch back and forth between them. So again, we use the assign section usually and just assign the different snippets to buttons, and it comes up and it's labeled when it's on the board, and it's really easy. You can also scroll through them here, or you can always just go to the view window on the scene section and manually click and load the snippets. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I hope this was helpful.